we're going to go ahead and look at how to read syllables or what words that are one syllable long. This is how we start reading. There's actually 6 types of syllables that we need to know before we start reading words that are a little bigger. So we're going to go over those 6 syllable types. So to begin with, we're going to start from the left to the right. We'll go ahead and get started with this group here. Okay, so this group right here is called the CVC or closed vowel group. And what we do is we look at these vowels and we sound them out. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to sound out these vowels. So we're going to sound out the vowels. So the first vowel is A, like an apple. And we have E as in elephant or egg. We have I as in iguana or as in igloo. We have O, octopus, as an octopus, and as umbrella, umbrella. So we would say the names A, E, I, A, Those are the sounds of the letters. Now that we know that, we need to understand why. Why do we say the sounds and why do we not say the names? Well, there's nothing special about these vowels here. They're not being helped by anybody. There is no rule. They're just vowels that are stuck in between 2 consonants. And consonants are letters like B, C, D, F, G, H, J, K. Basically, every other letter except for these vowels. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some consonants to these vowels. So let's get started. We have, for example, K and the T sound. So if we read this, we would say K. One second. We would say K, A, T. And that would say cat. K, A, T, cat. And then we have the E. So we could say something like P, E, T, pet. And then we could have something like I, G, big. For the O, we could say N, A, T, not. And for the U, we could say K, A, T, cut. So that's how we read simple syllables with one vowel in between them. Okay, so that's the simplest way to read these. Or these are the most simple words to read because you just sound out each letter and then you connect them. Okay, now we're going to move on to something we call the silent E or the bossy E. Okay, so the bossy E is when we have a word that has about 4 letters or sometimes even 5 or 6 letters, but usually it's about a 4-letter word. It can be 5 or 6. And the bossy E does something. It doesn't say anything. It's silent. I like to draw a little line across it like this to show that it's silent. But it does have a job. And the job of the silent E is to make this letter or this vowel say its name. So now we're not going to say the sound. Now we're going to say the name. So instead of saying A, we say A. Instead of saying E, we say E. Instead of saying instead of saying I, we say I. Instead of saying we say O. Instead of saying we say you, or sometimes we say oo. This one can be a little tricky because it has 2 sounds. So again, this says you or oo. So we have to be careful. Okay, so now that we know that, let's go ahead and add some words. So, let's see. We could say a d, made, Made. Why made? Well, again, this is a long vowel. By the way, this little line on top of a vowel means that it's long and it says its name. And if I make a little U symbol on top of a vowel, it says its sound. So again, A. Why A? Because this E helps it say its name. So it says A, D. Instead of saying the word a, D, we say A, D, made. Now, same thing for the next vowel, the vowel E. However, there's not too many words with the vowel E. So I will go ahead and we will write the word th. E, theme. The TH makes a th sound. Th, E, theme. Why theme? Because the E makes the E say its name. Okay, next one. B, I, k, bike. Why bike? Because the E makes the I say its name. So it says I, bike, bike. Next one. O, p, rope. O, p, rope. And again, the E makes the O say its name. And we have U. For this one, we're going to use a word with U. So we would say k, U, t, cute. Cute because the E makes it say its name. It makes the vowel say its name. So far, we've learned that if we have a closed vowel or a consonant next to the vowel before we end the syllable, we say its sound. But if we have a silent E, we say the vowel's name. Okay. Now, there's another time when we say the vowel's name, and that is when we have an open vowel. And you might be asking yourself, what is an open vowel? Well, an open vowel is a vowel that is at the end of a syllable. Okay, so this little line is going to signify that that's the end of a syllable. Sometimes in school, we clap for words, like we'll say, detention. And we clap for words. So we're breaking them into syllables. So we have 3 syllables for the word detention. Detention. So for example, let me write it here on the side. We would say something like detention. Now, let's look at this one first. The E inside of this syllable says e. T, en, t, en, ten. It says its sound. But here it doesn't say it says its name. Why does it say its name? Because it's at the end of the syllable break. So instead of saying detention, we say detention. D, it says its name. So this little line, these little lines are going to signify the end of the syllable break. So let's go ahead and get started with some words. So we have, well, actually, let's do the sounds first. We have E, we have I, we have O. And you know how sometimes they say the vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y? Well, here's a case where the vowel is Y. So if we look at the Y, it's a vowel because it makes a vowel sound. In this case, it's going to make the I sound. So we'll look into that in a bit. So let's get started. We have the word we, me, he. We'll go ahead and do we. W, E. And we notice that the E says its name because it's at the end of the syllable break. I, hi. The I says its name because it's at the end of the syllable break. O, O. We could also say like g, O. And there are some exceptions like the word t-oo where the O makes like a long U sound as well. So like to. Where are you going? Oh, I'm going to the mall. And then we get to the Y. So for example, we have the word and then I, my. Why? Because the Y makes that I sound. We try not to end words in English, just like two words that end in I in English. We have other words like pepperoni that end in an I, but those are coming from other countries. But we try not to end words in I. So instead of writing an I at the end of the word, we try to write a Y. And again, we try not to end words with an E that makes a sound, so we write a Y also. So here's another word. I like this one. I. Why? When I was a kid, I always asked, I always wondered why we would spell, nobody could answer this. I mean, my teachers didn't know, I guess, why we would spell Y the way we spell it. And now I understand, like, what? I. The Y makes that I sound. Okay, so those are the first three syllable types. Let's move on to the next syllable types. The next syllable types, we call them the bossy R's or the R controlled vowels, or there's many names. But basically, the vowel is next to an R. And that's important because it changes the sound of the vowel. So instead of saying like apple, we say R, like R made it like a pirate. So R, we have the next one is or. And then these three right here, these three, you have to be really careful because I know we want to say different sounds. I know when I was a kid, I wanted to say and then I wanted to say ear, and then I wanted to say oor, but no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. These three, these three syllable types say the same sound. They say So this says this says and this says The same sound. So don't change the sounds. They are all Okay. So let's get started. So we would say something like p, r, t, p, r, t. Okay. B or n. B or n. We could say f, n. F, n. Fern. B, d. B, d. I remember as a kid always thinking, why do we spell bird with an I? It doesn't make any sense. Well, because the IR also makes the sound. Didn't know that though. B, n. B, burn. And with burn, I remember thinking, oh, like burn. Yeah, I see it. But no. We need to understand the sounds of the phonics. We need to study phonics in order to understand this. But anyways, so those are the sounds. There are going to be some exceptions. Sometimes, like for example, in the word neighbor, that's a more complicated word that we'll get into. We see that we write it like this. Neighbor. But we don't say neighbor. We say neighbor. So the or actually makes the sound. We'll have some exceptions. You'll see some words like that, like the word monitor also. The word monitor, let's go ahead and look at that one real quick. You'll see some exceptions there as well. We don't say monitor, we say monitor. So we'll see exceptions where we see other types of bossy R's, but they go back to saying So just be aware of that. We have the fifth syllable type. I like to call these the vowel teams. Double vowels, there's many names for them, but basically it's two vowels together that make a different sound. We're only going to go through some. There's actually there's about, I don't know really, but there's about 16, 17 of these, but we're only going to go through the most common ones right now. The way this works is two vowels are together, and the second vowel is silent. It doesn't say anything. Now, these are not vowels right here, the GH, but I like to group them in here because it sort of follows the same rule. And so the first one says its name, and the second one doesn't say anything. So there's a little song that goes something like this. When two vowels go walking, the first one does the talking. The second one we see, but we don't say. Okay, so we're going to follow that rule. We're not going to say these vowels. Again, the G and the H are not vowels, but I like to group them in here. Okay, now that we have that, why are they there? Well, they're there because if they were not there, then the A would say ah. We don't want it to say ah. We want it to say A. So we need another helper. We need help. They need help. In order to say its name, they need help. So let's go ahead and make some words. R, A, N, rain. Notice that the I is silent and it doesn't make a sound. But it's there. It's there because it helps the A say its name. Okay. Eat. Eat. Meat. Let's go to the next one. Eat. Beat. Let's do a double blend right here. Float. Float. I. I. Light. Light. Ooh. Sue. Or actually, let's do dew, like the morning dew. And finally, j, ooh, s. And that the C and the E make the S sound. Okay. And finally, the last syllable type is what we call the consonant LE syllable type. And basically, it's when words end in LE. And the L at the end of the word and even in the middle of the word, depending if it's the end of the syllable or the beginning of the syllable, it makes a different sound. It doesn't make the L sound like in Lisa. It makes a O sound. O, almost like an O sound. O, O. So let's start. Let's look at this word here. Okay, let's ignore what I just wrote. Let's ignore this part right here. Okay, but let's look at this part. Okay, when we have a T, an L, and an E, we're going to add the sound of the consonant, which is T, and then we're going to say O. So this would be to. So the word would be little, little. Okay, because we're adding the T to it. And here we have it. The I says I because it's a short vowel. It doesn't have any help. Okay, we have this word, which is go, go, go. Okay, let's make it into a bigger word, a two-syllable word. Okay, we just studied this pattern. It's actually right here. It makes the E sound because the first vowel goes walking. Sorry, the first the first vowel, when two vowels are walking, the first one does the talking. So the A doesn't say anything, but it helps the E say its name. So if we read this together, it says E, go, E, go, eagle, eagle. Okay, let's go ahead and look at another one. Here's an open syllable one. Okay, let's see. See, the A is at the end of the line break. So the A is going to say its name. So it would be table, table. So again, we have a long vowel here and we have a long vowel here. Table, they say their name. Okay, let's do another long vowel. Again, open syllable because it's at the end of the syllable. Okay, go ahead and read that word. Okay, that should be enough time. That says cable, cable. Why? Because the A is at the end of the syllable. The A is at the end of the syllable. All right, moving on. Let's try some double consonant words. These are words that are broken up. well, just sort of like the T and the T in the middle. Let's try, you know what? Pickle. Pick, pick. The I says I because it's short, because it's in between two consonants. So we have pickle, but we know that we don't write two C's in words. So instead of a C, we would write the K. Pickle, pickle, pickle. Okay, and the last word, I want to see if I can make it into, there we go. We're going to write the word, what does that say? Think about it a little bit. Okay, if you remember correctly, it's one of those that used to confuse me as a kid, and I didn't know why we would write this like this. It says circle, circle, circle. And the IR is bossy, it's a bossy R, so we go ahead and we say the sound for that one. And of course we add co. Okay, so those are the 6 syllable types. Hopefully you can study this for a while. And once you know the rules, you can apply the rules to small words. Again, this is the beginning of reading. I would say once you know this, you know the first step to reading, which is, well, not the first step, but I guess another step to reading. And you can use this to combine these syllables to make bigger words. And we will be going into that later. Do me a favor, if you liked what you saw, if you thought it was interesting or you want to learn more, I'm a brand new YouTuber. Well, that's a lie. I actually used to be top 100 trending, top 100 trending back 15 years ago when YouTube just started. But it's been 15 years since I've done anything really big with YouTube, and I'm trying to come back. So if you like this content, please like it, subscribe. I will be making more.